How's it going, football fans out there? Welcome back into the 3 Fever Point After podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Alex Anderson. Our other host, Jeff Harper, Bossier offensive coordinator, is here, and a special guest today, Calvary quarterback Abram Wardell. Man, we're so excited to have you on the show here.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Of course, and this is Abram's first time in a little sit-down deal like this, so I can't imagine it's more nerve-wracking than what you deal with on a Friday night.
I'm a little more comfortable on the field than right now, but we'll adapt.
Yeah, we're going to make it work. That's the job of a quarterback. And obviously, the story for Calvary right now is these last 2 games, back-to-back losses after how long was that winning streak previously?
15.
Yeah,
I think.
so it's still early. Still a lot of football left to play. Everything's still right out there in front of you. But what's kind of the vibe like for the team right now?
I mean, we're in good spirits. You don't expect to lose those games. You expect to win every single game you go out. But the mistakes that we're making are we're just not doing the small things right now. We'll get them fixed, and we're going to be back up contending for state.
Of course, and you talk to Coach Guin after any game, and the message is similar in the sense of, we're playing these tough games early, we're preparing for that run late. Do you think it is, you never want to lose, but do you think it is beneficial in a way to kind of get knocked down a bit this earlier in the year, almost kind of a wake-up call type deal?
Yeah, you don't like losing, but you definitely can learn from the losses, the mistakes that you make during those games, and get better from it.
And Coach, I know you and Abram have known each other for a long time. You work together. What have you seen from Calvary in these past 2 games, and just your opinion on what's going on?
I mean, I think the main thing is they're not running from competition. Like we've talked about this for the last 3 weeks.
Right.
Calvary's playing a schedule that most people would never try to play.
Right.
So Coach Guin is putting his team in a situation where they can be stretched, where they can play top quality opponents, because when they get into district, there is a discrepancy in who they're playing, and the playing field may not be as competitive in some of those games. And so you don't want your team to get in a habit of playing down to opponents, which they don't do. And you want to keep them where they're having to prepare every week, knowing that if they don't play their best ball, there's the chance that they won't win. And so when you play Neville on 4 days' notice,
right.
And you go in a shootout, that was a legit shootout, one of the best games you can watch, and you lose a close one late. Okay, I can live with that. 5A opponent, it's fine. Probably not anybody in 2A that's going to be even close to that good on both sides of the ball. Then you turn around and you go on the road and you play an opponent that you don't have a lot of familiarity with, and they're going to have athletes, and you show up, and they're a bunch of grown men, and they're not scared, and all of a sudden you find yourself behind, and things happen, and teams play up. And when you're at the top of the food chain, right, you got the hardware, and you got a team that's planning to go back, you are everybody's state championship game.
Right.
So you've got to play your best football week in and week out. And so I think that Calvary is going to be fine. I don't think there's major glaring problems or holes. There's no scheme issues. They've got great coaches. Now it just comes down to cleaning it up. It always comes down to fundamentals. I mean, he said it. You win and lose with the fundamentals. It's in the details. It's not the big things. It's the small things that mess up ball games. And so when you have a bunch of those, you are the sum total of all those mistakes. And I know that that's what they're trying to clean up. Once they do, watch out.
And Abram, kind of what Coach said, last year we expect you to be good, but I mean, it was still kind of surprising how good you were. You got that state championship ring. You do have that target on your backs. Have you noticed that kind of shift in your opponent's attitude?
Yeah, I would say some teams play a little harder when they play us. You're going to expect that, but that's what we should want. We should want teams giving their best, so that would make us better.
All right, we'll move off this topic. We'll praise you a little bit. Your numbers have been insane through the first few games. I don't know. Do you know them off the top of your head?
I don't know him off the top of my head, but I know
him off the top of your
he's
head?
got a bunch.
I don't know him specifically.
All right, that's good. But I mean, I know first 2 games it was how many, 13 touchdowns or something like that. It was hard to imagine you getting better from what we saw last year, but you have. Does the game seem slower for you now with another year under your belt, and how's that looking for you out there?
Yeah, I'd say it slows down a little bit, just the more experience you have. I have a great team around me, so that most definitely helps. But yeah, most definitely the experience and then the preparation that our coaches are doing for us.
And when you work with Coach Harper in the off season or working with your coaches at Calvary, What is maybe one aspect of your game coming into this season that you really wanted to hone in on and improve?
Shoot. I'll say one is my mobility. I was working a lot of that over the season, being a little more of a threat in the run game, but being more on time, speeding up the process in my head.
Right, and you mentioned the run game. I was standing next to your dad in the jamboree when you lowered the shoulder there at the end zone against Union Parish. The sound he made to my left, I was like, oh.
His dad called me about that. Don't drop the shoulder, son. Get out of bounds. It's a long season. Abrams having none of that.
Nah, it didn't look like it. You kind of had that. You had that. It looks like you were seeing red heading right for that end zone.
Sir.
It was a beautiful play. We love to see it. Coach, what did you have for Abram? I know y'all talked
Well,
about
one of the things that you asked the question, like, what does he work on? The thing that I love about Abram that people don't understand is he would come work with me for an hour and a half. And this has been this way since he started when he was in middle school. He's always had this chip on his shoulder that he felt like he had to prove himself. And then his dad, being such a contributor at Calvary, it was never going to be given to him. Everything had to be earned. He didn't expect anything. He would come train with me, and then his dad would send me videos of him replicating the drill in their garage, or throwing into a net or whatever. His work ethic is second to none. And I mean, I work with a lot of high-end quarterbacks, but work ethic-wise, in my 20 years of working with quarterbacks, I've never worked with anybody that works harder. He's also one of those that he has the ability to feel when something is wrong, and then he wants to correct it, right? So he can kind of diagnose when something's wrong. And so his deal was he wanted to eliminate anything that a coach on film could critique, from arm side deep out throws, right, to hole shots down the field on the arm side. When I say arm side, you really can't fully rotate into an arm side throw. You showing off your arm in that. And so I know one college recruiter said, we don't see enough zip on the ball. He comes out in the spring game and he throws a rocket to the sidelines, and it's like, okay, check that box. Coach can't say that. But the speed and his ability to extend plays with his feet, people don't expect a kid his size and his build to be as agile as he is. But you're talking about a 4'6" kid in the 40,
right.
And you're talking about a 200-pounder that can run you over. So he has added a lot to his game. And the one thing that I will say is, last year when he gets in the playoffs, most of the time my teams aren't in the playoffs, right? And so he's in the playoffs, and so hey coach, can we watch film, right? And he is such a student of the small details. He loves seeing how pieces on the chessboard move. And it gives him an upper hand, especially when he goes in the state championship game, and he already knows St. Charles is going to rotate their safeties. They're going to spin guys. This is how they're going to line up to every look, and he had an answer for it, right? And so that comes down to his preparation, and it's just exciting to see him accomplish the goals that, when he's a freshman in high school and he's wanting to win a starting job,
right.
This is what I want to do when it's all said and done, and he's coming really close to that.
I've noticed as we're just sitting here talking to you, you seem more comfortable when we're talking about the losses and what you needed to do to get better than you were when Coach was praising you there. How's that kind of attitude work out for you?
Yeah, there's always room to get better.
Right.
That's kind of my thought process. I mean, I thank Coach for the words and all that, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
I imagine when you talk about the videos and stuff, we're throwing the towel, that's the rag, that's a thing, right? That we do. I've seen a lot of those drills, and so much work goes into this. And we primarily see the stuff on Friday night, but on a day-to-day basis for you, weekly, what does that look like in terms of preparation?
Yeah, I would say a lot of recovery during the week. I mean, especially playing like a team like Neville or Franklin, a big player, you're gonna get banged up. Ice bath, stuff like that. Prioritizing film, maybe the morning, midday, afternoon, and then going to practice, giving it your all, and recovering after that.
And the film is really what interests me because, for something like Friday Football Fever, that's something I'm working on every day throughout the week, whether it is watching other highlights or, for me, I'll go watch NFL Primetime and think, I could do that. Maybe not as well, but how much time looking at film do you think you spend in a week?
In a week, I'll probably say I try to do at least maybe anywhere between like an hour and a half or 2 hours a day.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, it just, it makes me feel comfortable on Fridays and Thursdays, knowing that I at least exhausted everything I could through that film.
And I'm sure as a coach, you just love hearing that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know how many times I've gone and looked, my guys, how much film they're watching, and then you see the correlation to why they're struggling with certain looks on game day. But like when Abram's watching film too, he's not just watching the game. Like he's looking at players, he's looking at techniques, he's looking at how they play versus this formation to the boundary or to the field. What do they do with motion? That's the kind of stuff that as a coach loves that, because now you're having, that's what people get into coaching for, is to see a kid get it, and he's one of those that he wants to get every aspect of it. And here's the other thing, you're not going to meet a more humble kid, right? But when it comes down to his preparation, second to none when it comes to QBs.
Could you give me a play call? Could you just call a play like you would in the huddle?
Play one, we don't huddle, we try to go fast.
Yeah.
But try not to give out like one of our important plays.
Right.
We can just go red check swing, or trips right, red check swing, lightning, Y corner, X, lightning back, or slant backside.
And that's communicated from the sideline. And you
sideline.
mentioned that. That's a lot. That's probably better than I am. I can tell you that.
Yep.
I can't remember what I did yesterday, much less all those words. What's your favorite play?
My favorite play?
You're acting like it's hard. It's going to be a pass play.
It's
It's going to be one that's
pass
going
play.
down the field.
Yeah. I don't have a specific one. The one that scores a touchdown. That's
I somehow knew that we were going to get there at some point.
Touchdown play.
Yeah, and I would assume maybe one to Colby Thomas. I wanted to ask you about him. I mean, how special is that guy?
He's special. I mean, he works hard. Me and him are best buddies. Known him for forever. So it's definitely special to see him get the attention. He's committed to Tech now. The attention that he deserves to get. Just an incredible work ethic and talent. But it helps to also have other receivers on our team that are taking away some attention, as a Caleb Tucker, Braylon, Brent, D. Will, Julius James. I mean, we got a bunch of guys that can go get it.
I interviewed Caleb last year when he was at Huntington. What a great kid. I'm sure having him's been a huge benefit for you guys.
Yeah, it has. He's also an amazing player, humble guy, but just gets the work done.
Now, what could you tell us about Coach Harper? Because we listen to him talk every week. He doesn't talk about himself a lot. But what can you tell me about training with him and what it's like?
I mean, for me, I have to give a lot of my awards, accolades, and all that to him. I mean, when I first started training with him, I was not good at all in 7th grade. I was not a good quarterback, and I got to thank him a lot because he saw something in me that no one really saw, and trusted the process. And he's gonna, even if you don't want to work hard, he's gonna make you.
Yep.
You gotta just trust the process and trust what he's trying to do with you. But yeah, I got to thank him a lot for all that he's done for me.
His dad called me and said, "Hey, we need to add some yardage to his deep ball."
Yeah.
And he had hit his first big growth spurt. Right, it was the summer going into his 8th grade year, and we did this arm strength program where we were throwing and weighted balls and all that, and it's kind of like the Driveline series that pitchers do, but it's really made for quarterbacks. And he gained 13 yards.
Wow.
On his deep ball because he stuck to the program. And then he started having shoulder and arm problems, and it's like, okay, let's slow down, because he was throwing so much.
Right.
Like, he's just that type kid. But it's easy to help a kid who wants to get better, right? And just being a part of his process has been the cool part, right? But the credit for the things he's accomplished really goes to him and his coaches, and the fact that he's got great players around him, and he is willing to do whatever for his team. And so it's one of those guys that I will always be able to look back and say, this is where it started and this is where it ended, and it had to do with the fact that that kid was 100% committed to getting better at doing what it is that he wanted to do, which is play quarterback at Calvary. That was his dream. That's what he wanted, and he knew. I mean, I got Liddy there. You know, I've got Bryce Carpenter there, and then you got KT, who was a quarterback at one point in time. Then you had Pop Houston that came in behind him, and here he is. You know, arguably in a position to, you know, rewrite the record books at Calvary if he stays on pace. And really, in his mind, he just wants to win another championship. So
right. Well,
it's exciting to watch.
We're pulling for that. I mean, what a blast that was to cover you guys in that run last year. We're hoping for another one. I did want to ask you, I go way back with Coach Gewen. He taught me driver's ed at Houghton High School. Used to write about him in the Corsair, the Houghton newspaper there. Sports editor, no big deal. Talk to me about Coach Gewen. I mean, he's just such a great guy. And what's it been like playing with him these past few years?
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's caught kind of a second wind. He used to be a little laid back. This year, he's on us. I mean, it kind of surprised me, but he's getting back in the groove. He's on us. He's a great coach. He's a great dude, great coach. I mean, he wants to win, and he prepares us to win.
My first experience with Coach Gewen, when I was writing at the school newspaper in high school, it was the end of the year. The season had ended. Houghton lost. It was like our first home playoff game in like 12 years or something like that. They ended up losing late. Play of the end zone didn't connect. And I wrote an article basically saying, you know how it goes. People are all upset and blah, blah, blah. So I wrote an article, probably poorly written as a 16-year-old kid, but it was like, hey, this was a great year. We had a lot of fun, whatever. So I'm sitting in class one day. I get a phone call. You need to go to see Coach Gewen in his office. And I'm like, what did I do? He brings me in. He's like, hey, I just wanted to thank you for this article, and it was really well done, and I appreciate you. And I was like, hey, you know what? That's my guy right there. So it's never faded. What do you say we stop talking about you for a little bit? You would like that?
I'm good with that.
All right, let's do that.
I've never seen him more uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome. I'm kind of having fun with this.
He's kind of squirming over
Yeah,
here.
it's kind of fun. Look at the always confident Abram Wardell. Putting you in the hot seat a little bit here. We like that. So we're going to talk about some games from last week, some games coming up this week. Feel free to chime in. I know you know a lot of these guys. I guess to start, we did talk about Calvary a lot. The other big game from last week was Evangel and Bird. CE Bird, kind of what we expected to see out of them.
Yeah, so my father-in-law was there, and so we had dinner tonight, and he was telling me all about it. He said Bird dominated the box, dominated up front. You know, Evangel did a good job of moving the ball around, and they drove the ball well, but Bird made the plays. And then when it came down to it, Harrison Ayers and the Bird offense just did what they do. You know, they were running the ball effectively, staying ahead of the down and distance, and didn't put themselves in any compromising situations with turnovers. And it was a good game, but from what I was told, it was a fairly decisive win for Bird.
It seemed that way, and it's the formula that we talk about with Bird so much. It's just working as it always does. And they were young last year, and it's. At this point, I'm looking at them as the favorite in this league. I mean, obviously, Airline's still a factor.
Oh, of course. I mean, we've talked about this. You know, I think Huntington's going to pose a problem for everybody because they are so big on both sides of the ball. But so is Bird. You know, my father-in-law was saying Bird's defensive front was really good, and then you've got Airline sitting there that's like, hey, we can hang half 100 on everybody,
right?
And they can. So it's going to be fun to see how it shakes out. I mean, we're almost to the halfway point, and this now 1-5A is going to start picking up, and so these games will start, changing the look. But I do think that you're going to see, Parkway hasn't had a real tough schedule
Parkway's
yet.
Out there too, yeah.
We'll learn a little bit about them this week because they do go to Natchitoches. Natchitoches is going to play them tough. I think Parkway, will pull that one out. So the next few weeks will say a lot to what the district's going to look like.
Yeah, and I left my Parkway hat at home tonight.
I don't blame you.
I mean, I wore it to the Mudbugs game on Saturday. We're doing our thing. We made good on all of our bets. And so we got Airline and Evangel this week, and I think that's going to be a huge game. I mean, you know a lot about both of those quarterbacks there. Talk to me about those guys, both Pop and Ben.
Yeah, man. Ben's my guy. Train with him. Great quarterback. He works hard, does everything right. Pop's a young guy coming up. Great quarterback. Of course, he was at Calvary before. Evangel. I mean, it's going to be a good showdown. Two great quarterbacks.
It's going to be fun. I always wonder sometimes if guys like you and Ben and all the other great quarterbacks we have, Luke Delafield, just get together sometimes and just be like, man, That was pretty awesome. We did some good stuff out there. I assume that probably doesn't happen, but that's what I would do if I had any athletic ability.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. These guys, they're all buddies, but when it comes down to it, they're all really wanting to win and do their own thing and make sure that they stay where they're supposed to be. And so I would, the game that I wish we could get. There's 2 games.
Yep.
Okay. Number 1, Calvary Evangel.
Of course.
There's nobody in Northwest Louisiana that wouldn't want to see that.
We got to get this back.
Okay. And then the second game would be Calvary Airline.
Yep.
Those 2 right there would be, because you're talking about like generational quarterbacks that have put up numbers that for the longest time it was really Booty, Dees, Brock Berlin, it was those guys. Right. Then here comes Cade Hart, and then now you've got Abram, and then you got Ben that's doing it for the Bossier side, and he's got I think he just went over 9,000 yards this past week, and so and I think he's 4 or 5 touchdowns away from 100 for the career. So that's unbelievable. But he's also been starting 4 years, so that's an impressive deal. So those games would be fun to see. But hey, we're going to get Evangel Airline this week, and I'm sure Ben's going to try to throw 7 or 8 touchdowns and welcome Evangel into the district. So we'll see.
And it is so much fun, and I'll tell you too. From our perspective, someone that pushes out these highlights every Friday night, it's so fun to watch you guys and what y'all do. So thank y'all for making our Friday nights more fun. Because as Coach mentioned, we don't. This consistent high level of quarterback play.
It's not normal.
It is not normal, and obviously you're a huge part of that. So we do thank you for that. It's a lot of fun watching you play each Friday night. One big game, our game of the week this week. I have to assume you know what it is.
I don't.
Really? Mm-mm. It's one of the biggest rivalry matchups around, Coach.
Which one is it?
It's North DeSoto Northwood.
Yeah. See, I've slept since then. I will say this: I think Northwood's riding the high.
Yep.
64 points this past week. They're playing really good football, and North DeSoto is trying to figure it out with Cole Corey being out. But they've also played center and they played West Monroe. So people need to pump the brakes if they don't think, North DeSoto's not what they were. They've played a very difficult schedule. Yep. Coach Dunn's not running from it either. Nope. So, and people need to understand, West Monroe is good, right? West Monroe was not going to show everything in the Jamboree against Evangel.
Right.
Evangel, had 2 quarters and got hot and made some plays and put up good points. I think it was 25-22, but that's a 2-quarter game. West Monroe dominates a really good Huntington team. All right. Then they go on the road against Pulaski on the road and score like 49 or 50 points in that game, and they were in it. All right. And then they go to North DeSoto, and what was the final in that game?
They ended up pulling away late, but when our photographer was there, it was 14-14, and Luke was doing his thing, and he was slinging it out, even if it wasn't Cole Corey. So,
I think wasn't the final pretty big, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a high scoring.
Yeah,
game
it was It's pretty big. That's a big win, and people would say, well, West Monroe's West Monroe, yeah, but they haven't been that dominant version of West Monroe. They've been good, and they're pretty good this year. So North DeSoto's played really tough teams. I mean, Center Texas is no joke. So. I think that people may be surprised at how this game shakes out. I would not be surprised if North DeSoto comes in there and just
me neither.
Lights it up. So I really do enjoy this matchup because every time we've talked about it, Northwood has won it. It surprised everybody.
Yep.
And so in our boy Mason Welch. If we were to reach out to Mason right now, he would give you a prediction. It would be a heavy Northwood favorite. And so I think that the rivalry's fun because of the way the coaches do it and the way the communities go at each other, and the fact that North DeSoto is a home site for Northwood, and I just think that it's going to be a good game. If you had to choose, like if I had to pick, I'm not going to pick against North DeSoto in that ball game. I'm just not because of who they played. But I mean, watch out. Northwood's playing great.
No, Abram, this is a media thing that maybe you'll learn one day later post-football. Coach can say that just fine. The problem with me is if I make a pick one way or the other, well, then I clearly hate the other school. I'm totally biased against them. So I'm going to stay out of that. But what do you think is going to happen in this one?
I mean, I haven't really been watching Northwood, and I saw a little bit in North DeSoto. Again, it's hard to bet against North DeSoto,
right?
Even though they've played some tough games. So I would probably say North DeSoto. But I think it's going to be a great game.
Well, I'll just pick Northwood. That makes it easy. I'll just go against both of you guys. I honestly have no idea because we've seen it. I mean, the year North DeSoto made it to the Dome, who goes in there and beats them week 10 is Northwood. So you just don't know in these type of games. And with what Luke Delafield's dealing with without Cole Corey from a quarterback's perspective, I'm sure that's got to be tough to go without your number one target.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you're number one guy. Yeah, but you got to, that's football sometimes. You got to adapt, get other guys into the system, getting the ball. But I think North DeSoto is going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's always, it's an easy game of the week.
So you got Northwood. That's your pick.
I'll take Northwood, yeah.
He takes North DeSoto. I got North DeSoto. Who you have, Evangel or Airline?
Oh, I'm going Airline all the way.
Oh, I'll say Airline's the more experienced team, so I'll be going with Airline.
Of course, I'm going with Airline.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe
we shouldn't. I mean, because Evangel's got the little E on their helmet. Like they just have that the mystique to them. But Airline is just like wanting. They're wanting everybody.
And with Airline, I think their best win so far was on the road, and we had it on a stream, but you didn't get to see the full.
But they look good every week.
Right.
Jamboree was just a jamboree.
Yeah, of course, and we don't really take any stock in that stuff. We've talked about that before, but I just think with Airline, I think they do have that chip on their shoulder a bit, especially after last year with Shreve taking them down. I think they're almost kind of have that attitude like, hey, don't forget about us.
Yeah.
We're still here. We're obviously very excited about Evangel and Bird and all that stuff. But, yeah, I still love Airline in this league in general. I think what Ben does is special, and he's got his weapons out there too. And their defenses look better this year as well. And I just like the Vikings.
And Scoggins can coach, man.
Right.
I mean, Justin Scoggins deserves a lot of credit. The guy can coach ball.
Now, he was in the Feaster tree, correct?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He, learned right underneath him, and he's taken that system and he's made it his own and added elements to it that Feaster may not use. And he's a great play caller, and so he keeps defenses honest, and he knows how to attack them. And those guys are great at running that scheme. And so, and you're talking about guys that have been playing in it now 4 years, and they took their lumps, and then they've just gotten it rolling. And so. It's going to be a fun one to see how it all shakes down, but I expect Ben to put up some big numbers.
Yeah, and you mentioned Scoggins, the way he calls plays. How beneficial is that for a quarterback when you have a play caller that kind of gets it and gets you in that groove?
Yeah, I mean, our OC, our play caller, Marvin, Coach Marvin, he's a great coach. I mean, we're on the same page.
Right.
I mean, whatever. He really knows what I want to call. I know what he wants to call. We're really driving, but it's insanely beneficial.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me, and you know this too. I mean, that particularly when it comes to that quarterback-coach relationship, I mean, you see it all the way up in the NFL. You see a guy like Justin Fields who's struggling somewhere, goes under new coaching, and all of a sudden he's given new life. I mean, Drew Brees was similar with Sean Payton.
Yep.
That's always such an interesting part of the equation for me is how that quarterback and coach relationship pays off, and I'm sure you've seen it a million times.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've had to deal with it, and the better the relationship between the quarterback and the play caller, the better the offense is going to be. No, and I mean, here's an NFL example. Malik Willis is playing for the Tennessee Titans, right? He goes to Green Bay, and down goes Love, and all of a sudden they've got a scheme built around Willis, and he's putting up ridiculous numbers and looks great. And so it's just Justin Fields is the same thing in Pittsburgh. So it's a thing where your offense is only as good as the quarterback and the play caller being on the same page. And for Calvary to put up the numbers they have, there's definitely that dynamic where you've got to be able to trust each other and giving the guy freedom at the line of scrimmage and then being able to check out plays and then asking for feedback because he's the one on the field. And so, it's fun to watch. When they're on the same page, watch out.
Another team I wanted to talk about was Minden, undefeated, and I'll give you another media lesson here. The importance of accuracy in your reports. So I don't know if you watched Friday Night, Coach, but we had a little bit of an error in the Minden Northwestern game. We got the score wrong.
Oh man!
I think can anyone update ScoreStream? Is that how it works?
I'm not 100% certain on that. I don't want to lie.
Okay, I don't think we're certain on it either because ScoreStream said 28-20 Northwestern wins, which I found odd because my wife filmed that game for us. I cut the highlights. Minden was all over them. I'm like, okay, this is what it says in the script. So I'm Ron Burgundy. I'm going to read this
Oh,
thing.
my
And I
gosh.
mean, the words could not have, there was such a small period of time from when those words left my mouth to my emails exploding in front of me on the tablet there. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. I'm like, oh boy. And, I feel bad because Minden's a little tougher to get to sometimes. So we try to get them on as much as we can. And then here we go. They're undefeated. I get the score wrong. I said they lost. And I'm praising Coach Wilson. What a comeback win.
Oh,
and
no.
Yikes. So
What was the final in the game?
it was 20-0 Minden.
Oh, wow.
So we had 28-20 North Webster. So
That's
yeah.
quite a mess up there.
yeah, not a great look. I was chatting back and forth with some Minden
See,
fans.
those are his stats, Wardell.
Yeah.
Those are his stats.
Yeah, that's my interception right there. That's my pick right there at the goal line.
And that kind of stuff eats Alex up. He does not want to make those mistakes.
I'm still talking about it. It's Tuesday.
Yeah.
I'm still bringing it up, and I can feel that little itch. I'm like, oh gosh. But yeah, so I was chatting with some Minden folks that night, and I was like, hey, I'm sorry, we got it right,
Yeah.
we corrected it, and it is what it is. But the Tide, they look good here in 1-4A.
Yeah, they do, and they're big.
Yeah.
They're very physical. They're playing really good defense. They've got athletes on the offensive side of the ball. Their quarterback is really he's dynamic. As far as just the ability to make throws and make off schedule plays. Who do they play this week? Who's their opponent?
Woodlawn.
Yeah, and see, Woodlawn's historically the last few years that they've been right there in the mix. They're really competitive. Can't really judge them off of a Parkway game, and I know they had some injuries, some people banged up, but
Right.
when we played them last year, they were really good. When I watched them on film early this year, they were good. So the Henderson kids, legit.
Yep.
Legit, super legit. So that's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I
I
think
it's
so
going to be a
too.
good one. People don't need to look at Woodlawn and their record and think, oh, they're not good. They've played a tough schedule.
Every Woodlawn game I've personally been to, I went to their jamboree and I went to their game last week. They've got a guy, number 14, Quentin Johnson. He is a dude. I mean,
Yep.
he's the running back. He kind of does a little bit of everything for them. And we had a play in the highlight last week where he gets the handoff, hits the hole. Guy completely face mask, rips the helmet off, and he just keeps chugging to the end zone for a touch. I mean, they call it back, obviously, but I was like, yeah, that's a
Yep.
guy right there.
Yeah.
That's a football player. And then he scored the next play. So
Yeah.
it was good. So, yeah, I think Woodlawn is a good test for Minden right now.
Is the game at Woodlawn or is
It's
it?
at Minden in the pit.
So that's a hard place to play,
It
man.
is.
I'm not gonna lie.
It's a cool place, too.
I would give Minden the upper hand because they are riding the momentum of being undefeated, and they're playing at home. But I wouldn't be surprised if Woodlawn goes in there and wins.
All right, we're over 30 minutes now, so we've just about hit our desired time. I know you're ready to get out of here. I can see it on your face. Before we go, though, I kind of give Coach an opportunity when we close the show to just inspire people that may be listening, maybe wanting to watch a stream at their house or just catch the highlights on Friday night. Why should they get out and see you guys? Why is it important for them to get to the stadium on a Friday night?
Yeah, I think especially at our games, the atmosphere is crazy. I mean, our fan base is pretty amazing. Just to have a good time. I mean, I think there's a bunch of good games around here, a bunch of good teams, explosive offenses, great defenses. So if you just want something to do, I think you should go out and watch one of the games, and you'll have a great time.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like we said, this is a historic time for us. You're not going to see play like this as consistently as we've seen it.
No, and you're not going to see this type of talent on the field just in our area.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about really good quarterback play, and we really beat that drum a lot. But the receivers are really good. You're going to see some incredible offensive linemen. Devin Harper's, legitimate P4 player.
Yeah, he's pretty darn good.
He's good. He's really good. And then, Shreve has got some good ones. And then I told you Huntington's offensive line is really good. There's a lot of talent, man. It's just it's a talent-rich area. It's really good coaches, and the games are going to be competitive. People that went to watch Calvary's game last week, guarantee you, everybody thought Calvary's going to go in there, and it was a good game. Right? Same thing with Neville. Same thing with what's going to happen with Evangel and Airline this week, and Woodlawn and Minden. So North DeSoto, Northwood. Like, if you get an opportunity, get out of your house, go watch some high school football. The kids work so hard.
Yep. 2 to 3 hours of film a day.
Every day, just to play a game, and it's really good when they go out there and they see the stands are full, and it's fun for them, and they play a little harder. I'm gonna be honest. when the crowd's full, the kids are going to give you a little bit
Right.
more. And so go out and support local high school football.
I'll close this out with a story that you might like. Remember, I went to your practice in the gym here over the summer, and I was trying to get some of the hero shots of Devin Harper, for the story. And I was he was lined up going this way. I was off to the side of him, right? And I was unaware of what the drill was going to be. And Hutton, he hits and comes right for me. I couldn't use that first shot because I jumped. I was like, no, get out there. Like it was terrifying. I'm sure for your end, it's probably very comforting to see that.
Yeah, it's a scary dude.
Yeah, he
Not want
is.
to be on the other side of him.
No, certainly don't. And that's why I sit here in these chairs talking to you guys. It's a lot safer sitting right here. So, Coach, or Abram, really appreciate you coming in, man.
Yes, sir.
This was
Thanks
a lot
for
of
having
fun.
me.
Coach, you're kind of signed up all year, so thanks anyways.
Absolutely. I always enjoy it.
Yeah, me too, man. So go watch Abram Wardell this Friday night and watch us at 10:30 on KPXJ, the Southern Classic Chicken Friday Football Fever Scores and Highlights show. We'll see you on Friday.